It is just after 4:30. We'll go ahead and get everything kicked off and going. I know Mary's got a couple other meetings. She's trying to bounce around to cover every community meeting in one day, so we'll try to stay on task and keep it going. I'd like to thank everybody for coming and being with us. I know this is typically just our work session time, but we do have this as a called meeting because tonight's the night we get to go through and review and approve the millage rate. So you get to be here for that as well as we go through the rest of the agenda. To kick off, I'm going to ask Mr. Reese, if you wouldn't mind, to lead us off with our prayer and invocation, and then Commissioner Tatum, if you lead us in pledge.
Let us bow our heads in prayer. Father God, we thank you for this time of gathering. We thank you for this community. Father God, we're just asking that you give wisdom and guidance to our leaders, that they always keep in mind who they serve and the purpose of why they serve this wonderful county. Father God, we give you all the glory and honor. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As we were going through the pledge, one exciting thing I got to participate in today is meeting with a committee of different civic groups and organizations, because next year will be the 250th anniversary of our nation, and they're working on trying to plan quite a few events that when we really celebrate, especially as we get to the 4th of July, to give it the recognition it deserves. So looking forward to a lot that will be coming from the next few months as we get ready for that. Next is our approval of the agenda. There's one item that we have included to add in here. I know we've kind of worded it a little bit funny, but it fits with the item 8C on the agenda already. And that item 8CE would be to discuss the limited scope compliance overview at the Pickens County Airport. It's just to go through and kind of go through some of the compliance just in the work session portion of the meeting. It won't be a voting item. It's just to kind of get us up to speed on some of the things going on with that. That's the only amended item that I'm aware of, unless y'all have additional amendments that need to be added. With none, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved. Second.
Move in a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The agenda is approved, so we'll go on through. Next item on the agenda is just to read it onto the record. We had a proclamation that was signed back on the 29th of September, declaring Marble Festival weekend for the weekend of October 4th and 5th, which we just completed. I think that the weather was perfect. The crowd seemed to be great. Commissioner Tatum got to enjoy guiding a tour through the Marble Country. Oh, 2 tours. So
Most I've ever called.
we have several citizens that visited our county that may be confused now, but we.
I told them stories. I don't know if they were true or not.
But we did proclaim the weekend, and that was both myself and Mayor Raffield issued that proclamation on the 29th, proclaiming October 4th and 5th as Marble Festival weekend. Next item on our agenda is our old business, which we had none. So we'll move on past our old business and to new business, and that's the consideration and approval of the 2025 millage rate to include a rollback and additional tax cuts. I know that the 5-year levy had been advertised for 2 weeks, showing the 5-year history of the levy of our millage rate and the different tax collection that has occurred. We've got a slide I want to put up as we go through the process of the approval of the millage rate. One, just to kind of show how this number is calculated. I know even with trying to do a slide, it does still add some complication that's in there. But 2, to show the history of the millage rate, and especially the most recent history going from 2016 through today. If you take the 2024 digest, which was the total of all 2024 assessed property values, and then add in the growth, which includes new construction and reassessment. So you had new construction this particular year was $147 million was added into the total digest. Reassessments, which is when they go out and do the reassessments on the property, which the new state law requires those to be done every 3 years. That number was $180 million that was added into the reassessments. And then you deduct out all of the exemptions. Now, in 2025 is the first year that you saw the exemptions for the new floating homestead exemption. Floating homestead exemption, I think, is the word that will make our tax assessor's office cringe every time they hear it. But that's to where a lot of people try to use it as a term saying it froze at your 2024 value, which is not entirely completely accurate. But if you have a homesteaded property, then the value of your property for 5 acres and your home would be able to be to remain there. That's also your other exemptions, CUVA and others as well, and that would equal a per mil value that would come up there, and then you use that with your budget. So once you run those calculations, it's a lot of different formulas that go into there, but those calculations come up with a recommended millage rate. That recommended millage rate was calculated to be a 9.2143. You deduct out the amount from your local option sales tax. So you take the total amount of local option sales tax that was collected last year and then put that into a millage rate equivalent, which was in this particular case 2.4253. And that gives you the recommended rollback, which was 6.789. So if you look at that and then you try to pay attention to all the different governing authorities, if they're going to roll back to the recommended millage rate rollback, then there's a single meeting like we're having today. If you're going to not go back to that rate, if it's anything higher than that rate, then you're required to have 3 public hearings, and it's considered to be a tax increase, even though the rate may reduce. We took that number and then take a look at all of our budget hearings that we have met with department heads to try to look at the budget request and the budget needs for the upcoming year. And in that, realized that we had the ability this particular time to roll back additional, to have a tax cut below the rollback. That tax cut below the rollback would be a 0.17 additional rollback on top of what was calculated, which would bring tonight's rate that we're recommending as staff to the board to 6.772. Now you can look at a historic record there going back to 2015. 2015 to 2016 was the last increase of a millage rate that has occurred within the county. And you can see the significant difference from 2024 to 2025 using this rate. So do it from 2024 to 2025. That takes the rate from last year's rate of 7.286 down to this year's rate of 6.772. For those that have homesteaded properties that were homesteaded in 2024, then that's a significant tax reduction from last year's rate completely because the values didn't increase, and then you saw the reduction on top of that value increase. The school board also met last week. The school board, when they met to approve their millage rate, came back with their millage rate approval at 11.340, which was also a 0.8% reduction, a rollback. They exceeded the required rollback on theirs to go to a 0.8 rollback rate. So there's 2 parts to the process. One, I think a lot of people get confused when the Board of Commissioners meets because we are required by law to approve the total rate, which means the county's rate and the school's rate has to be approved by the Board of Commissioners. We have no authority, we have no authorization to change what the school sets. So even if we disagreed with it, it's still a requirement by law that we do approve it. We approve our rate and in turn approve the total rate. So our rate is at 6.772 is what we're recommending as staff for approval for tonight. The school's rate is 11.340, which would bring that to a total of 19.112 in the total rate when you factor the school's rate in to that process. So the technical approval that we're going for is first to approve our rate for the 2025 millage rate at 6.772, and then the total of the combined with us and the school, which would be the 19.112. As the total. I know that's a lot of information. We tried to put a slide to help provide just kind of a general overview. I'm oversimplifying the process, and I'm fully aware that I'm oversimplifying the process. And I've got the chief appraiser wanting to chime in on that. So
Check your math and see if the combined isn't 8.112 before you vote.
So, as I did my calculation here in front of me, he is 100% correct. The combined total rate between the county and the school is 18.112. The form does not have that. It has them both done individually. And so I sat here right before the meeting and wrote out to where I was trying to add those together right before we started. So, thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Can I commend you for not saying a curse word?
I'm not gonna say I didn't say it, it just didn't come out of my mouth. But yeah.
Thank you for your efforts.
But that does give us the chance not only to roll back the rate, but to also to use Walmart's logo to not only have a rollback, but to do more than another rollback this year. To show that I mean, if you look at the graph on the side, I think you can see our staff's worked really hard, our board of commissioners have worked really hard to listen, and we've worked to try to combine that when we go through. So with that, I would like to open up the floor for a motion for the approval of our rate at 6.772, which leads to the combined total of 18.112.
I will happily make a motion to approve.
I'll second your motion.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion?
I want to say well done to everyone involved to get this rolled back this much.
Has worked tirelessly. The tax commissioner's office, the tax assessor's office, the finance department, everybody's been working really hard to try to find a way to meet only what we have to have for next year and not to exceed that. So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? With none, all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. That motion carries and the rate is approved. We will get all of the documents to the tax commissioner's office. I know we still have to have one signed from the chairman of the board of assessors, and then we'll get that information into their hands so that they can move forward getting this to the state, getting the billing process up and running. Next item is the consideration and approval of the notice to proceed, the FBO at the Pickens County Airport. I know that that's information for us to have a discussion point. The original contract, when this was discussed, was issued back on 7/25/2024 from the Pickens County Airport Authority. So the approval of the contract moved forward back in 2024. There were some holdups dealing with the AWAS Tower. The AWAS Tower, in terms of dealing with construction, has been resolved. The long-term dealing with the AWAS Tower being raised is still in the process, and we're waiting for the FAA to respond to that. But in that, there was a contract that was awarded $2.265 million to NPSG Development LLC. We kind of stalled for a little while as we took the reins back in May so that we could fully understand the implications of that. Out of that, there's $1 million that's a grant from GDOT. That $1 million expires in February. So there's 750 of that. It's a 75% grant. $750,000 of that comes from the Georgia Department of Transportation. That would be deducted from that. Then following that, there's a portion that over the next 4 years would be reimbursed back to the county, which would bring this total amount down closer to $600,000 in the total between the two different grant formulas, one from GDOT, the other from the federal. Today, we finally did receive from GDOT the ability to issue that notice to proceed. GDOT did send that over, which is to provide that for the record. We've got the paperwork. There's a required, because of that grant funding, a required pre-construction meeting that has to be had with builder before the county can then issue the notice to proceed to the builder. We did have a meeting with the builders last week to discuss the time frame and to look at everything. I know we're 1 week off of schedule from what the original schedule that we sat and discussed, using today as that benchmark date, but with the pre-construction meeting, it does throw that for a week until GDOT can come and have that first meeting. With that in place, it looks like by the end of May, 1st of June, the facility will be open and will be operational and will be going. So I know that's putting a tight, there's weather, holidays, some other things that could throw that off, but it does look like we're to a point to get this thing moving forward and to have some pretty significant either grant on the front end or reimbursement over the course of the next 3 years from the federal allocations that come in. Wanted to provide that as an update. I know that's been a discussion question. This has been going on. I think the grant was originally awarded in 22. And there was just a lot of processes. This is one of the things that kind of led to us in our discussions as we were looking to present it to the state to assume control of the airport back in May, was so that we can kind of get some of these things moving and going forward. really excited to have this up and running, then we can finish working on our AWAS situation and then start with the other fencing project that we had put on hold till we get these up and running. So that's just to give you, it's not really an approval item because the contract was already approved, and when we assumed responsibility for the airport in May, we also assumed all contracts. But I didn't want it to be a surprise as things did start to go forward, so I wanted to bring that to the attention of the board as we were coming today, give you a chance to ask any questions if you have any.
Stacy needs a new office. We need to do it faster.
I know it. Right now she's floating between two. She's here some of the time and there some of the time, so we're trying to get her out of here. So there's a window office here, and they're rare, and everybody's chomping at the bit to get her out of this room so they can get that window office and they can go over there. So that's just to provide the update so that everybody does understand what we've got going on. Next item on our agenda is our work session discussion items, the review of land use intensity district. I've got Director Charles Reese from Planning and Development is going to go through the ones that will be on our agenda on October the 20th.
All right, good evening. We have two items before you tonight. First case is referenced as RZ-191004. The applicant is Justin Burke. The property is located at 124 Willow Road. The request is to change the zoning from small agriculture to rural residential. The portion of the site to be rezoned is 1.5 acres of a 7.86 acre tract. The parcel is identified as 018-030-005, and the purpose of this request is to create two lots. You'll see here the location. That's the southwest corner of Highway 136 connector and Willow Road. Here's the aerial view. The character area designation is rural residential. And as I said before, the site is located at the southwest location, intersection of Highway 136 and Willow Lane. It falls within the rural development character area, which encourages low intensity development while preserving the rural and open space characteristics of the surrounding area. The proposed rezoning is not expected to have any negative environmental impacts, and based on staff's findings, staff recommends approving the rezoning request from a 1.5 acre portion of a 7.86 acre tract from small ag to rural residential. And again, the purpose of this request is to create two lots. It will allow the applicant to build two single family dwellings to assist their parents. Any questions?
We have where it went before the planning commission and the vote.
Yes, and they voted recommendation for approval.
Okay. Any other questions?
Good.
All right.
And my apologies, it was five in favor, 0 opposed.
Okay.
I just thought I'd throw that in there. Second item is RZ-191011. The applicant is Daryl Morris on behalf of Ava Rogers. The property is located at 285 Stevens View Road. The total acreage is 33.34. The parcel is identified as 053 D as in dog 079. The intent to combine a 1 acre portion with a neighboring lot to the north, while the 11 acre tract will be designated for commercial use with an intent to sell. You'll see here the location map along Highway 515 South. Aerial view. The character area designation is arterial commercial corridor and suburban residential. Here's the proposed site plan. As you can see, north of that where it says 11 acres, The 1 acre that's going to be, that's being proposed would just add, that neighbor just want more buffer to be added to his property that separates his property from the property south of him. The proposed site is not anticipated to cause any negative impacts, as it is located at the intersection of Highway 515 South and Highway 108. While there is rural residential zoning to the west, the surrounding area includes a variety of zoning districts that permit both residential and commercial uses, given its proximity to the interstate highway. The comprehensive plan designates this area as part of the arterial, commercial, and suburban infill character areas with the frontage along Highway 515 South, falling within the arterial commercial classification. This positioning supports the site's suitability for commercial development while also aligning with the low-density residential planning evident in the portion that will be combined with an existing residential lot. Specifically, the arterial commercial character area is identified for commercial uses along Highway 515 South, which is encompassed with the highway business and related land use districts, including the neighboring incorporated area of the county. Based on staff's findings, we recommend approving the rezoning of a combined 12-acre portion of a 33.34 acre tract identified as parcel 053D079. The proposal, as mentioned earlier, is to rezone 1 acre of this 12-acre site to rural residential and the remaining 11 acres to highway business. The purpose of this rezoning request is to combine the 1 acre portion with the existing lot to the north of such property identified as 053D078001, while the 11 acres will be designated for commercial use with the intent to sell. The remaining 21.34 acres of the entire site will retain its agricultural designation. And before the chairman asks, Planning Commission voted 5 in favor, 0 opposed to recommend approval of the proposed rezone request on parcel 053D079 with the following conditions. The 1 acre portion will be combined with an existing lot to the north identified as 053D078001. Any questions?
To make sure, since we have the chairman of the planning commission is with us tonight in attendance, to let him know that we do value making sure that we know those votes, so.
I did have one question.
Yes.
Will the part that's going to be the commercial part, will it have access from Stevens View Road, or will it just have access from the 4-lane?
Well, to answer that question, it would the other access will actually come from Refuge Road down that road, but there is a portion that is not accessible from that portion I think we discussed earlier.
Okay.
It's not accessible to that.
All right, so you can't get to the 11 acres off of Stevens View?
No.
Okay.
Now, you can make a condition, even though they will have to get approval from GDOT as well. You can make a condition that all access is isolated to.
Okay.
To
So they couldn't do a
from
back exit?
five.
We can make a condition they can't do a back exit on the Stevens View?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's your question?
Yes, that's one question.
Any other? Thank you, sir. I appreciate it very much. The next item on our agenda is going to be a presentation from the Wildcat community. The Wildcat himself, Mr. Clayton Preble, is going to come up. Now, there's been a process they've been working through on trying to help work with the fire department on a brush truck. I think we've met 2 or 3 different times, and if I'm not mistaken, you guys have had a chance to meet with the other commissioners, but want to do a full presentation or you can update. So thank you for being here with us, and
Thank you for giving us this opportunity. You need to advance the slide. Do you have it?
I got you right here.
So, a picture's worth 1,000 words, they say. And the Wildcat community was established in 2006. We
quickly became, after that, Firewise community. We've been doing everything we can to promote Firewise principles. We can, as I say, preserve and protect the Pickens Mountains. Chris and I purchased our property in 1997. We used to go to Amarillo Falls with the kids every year. And on the eve of my 50th birthday, which you can do the math, I'm now 78, a young 78, I'll say. We bought our property on Money Road and then built our home in early 2000. We put together a great team of folks who has helped us achieve our goal, and I want to recognize them with us tonight. John Tarantini is the Vice President of Wildcat Community and the Treasurer. Keeps up with all the money, which is good. Jerry Sampson here on the front row. Jerry is Director of Development. He's new on the board of the Wildcat Community. He and I became friends, and I recognized his talents, and I put him to work, which he's done a great job. And also with us next to John is Tony Matthews. Tony is a board member of the Wildcat Community, a resident, and died. Second in command of our Station 10 up on the mountain. So we're about preserving and protecting, and that's what launched this effort. Okay? So there's the scope of the Wildcat community. We represent about 15,000 acres of land up there, some of which is in Dawson County. Part of Big Canoe is part of Tomahawk, all of Tomahawk, and a little bit of the Burnt Mountain community. But within there's 4,100 total homes and 4,200 full-time residents. So it's a big thing. We're also, since Station 13 has been activated, we've made good relationships with Mike Levitt, who's heading up that station for Pickens County. Mike lives in the Georgian Highlands, and we're actually in discussion with the Georgian Highlands about having them join the Wildcat community. They abut to Cape Mountain, and that's because it just makes a lot of sense for us to be working with them on the Firewise. The right-hand column are the communities that we went after in order to raise the funds that I'm going to share with you. Tate Estates really came to the party. We raised about $50,000 of what I'm going to share with you from Tate Estates. Over 3.5 hours, I drove every road in Tate Estates, and it's quite a place, quite challenging to get to many of those places in there if you've been in there recently. Monument Falls, which is, of course, off of Monument Road. Independence, Jerry represents the Independence. He doesn't live in either one of the communities up there. Sassafras, Windsong, which is off of Monument Falls. And then Wintermont, which is a little area just inside Dawson County that we have served over the years. All of those communities stepped up and provided funds that we've been able to raise. Next slide. So there's a long history of the Wildcat community. Many folks come along and say, well, what is the county going to do for us? We've taken the bull by the horns and recognizing where we are relative to emergency services. And over the years, we've done quite an effort of raising funds. For example, our Station 10, from the community up there, we raised $45,000. The county, Pickens County, contributed $45,000, and that's why we have a Station 10 up there today. Originally, Dawson gave us a fire engine for Station 10. It failed to meet the challenge of Mine Falls Rose and broke down shortly thereafter. Dawson didn't have a spare engine, and Pickens didn't have a spare engine at that time. So once again, I went to the well, and we were able to raise $45,000 again that we used to purchase our current engine 10, which has been a great engine. I know the community in North Carolina got a grant, and as a result of that, put their fire engine up for sale. It's been a good one and been a main pumper on all the major fires that we've had. Additionally, we have supported the community by not just money, but with skin in the game in terms of firefighters, emergency medical responders, and that sort of thing. Charles Caldwell, who couldn't be with us tonight, he's out of town, but Charles had put together, I think, told me, is it 16 or 17 volunteers, which, the majority of our calls are medical calls because of the age of some of our people. I'm not included in that group of older adults. I refuse to get that. But we're serving a major role in doing what we need to do. Pickens County has been a great partner with us in terms of training for all these folks. We have opportunities and challenges. The opportunity is how we preserve that lush, clean environment, which also serves as a watershed for all of Pickens County coming off the top of the mountain. The private roads are steep, windy. None of you are responsible for approving those subdivisions. Had you been, at this day and time, we never would have had them at the grades that they are and how they are. But they are what they are, and we've got to live with them. And as a driver of primarily the tender, I have great respect for those hills and the steepness of those, as well as the driveways, because of the way some of the houses are structured. The driveways are very challenging. And our rule has always been with either the fire engine or the tender, never go into an area that you don't know you're going to be able to get out of. And which brings us to why we need a different solution that we're proposing here today. So elevation, wind storms, the distance between other resources that Pickens County has and us, given how busy it can be at any one time in terms of the draw of those Chief President's additional services, be helping other folks. We need to be prepared to help ourselves. So what we decided to do, next slide, please. What we decided to do was we needed a brush truck. We needed a brush truck that was a rapid response vehicle. In discussions with Chief Pricer, it had to have at least a couple of things. One, it needed to be able to carry at least 300 gallons of gasoline and have a pumper on it equivalent of 500 GPM. In going around Tate Mountain and the other areas, I see the brush truck as both a rapid response vehicle as well as a relay pumper to be able to get water where we need to and be able to get up some of those challenging roads and challenging driveways. And it has to be, of course, four-wheel drive. I had shared with you before, we would apply for a major grant with the U.S. Forest Service. Then, due to competition from the Western Territories, Oregon, California, and all the challenges there, we were, again, not successful. We made 2 runs at this $5 million grant, were unsuccessful. So, running down 2 different paths, that process, as well as raising money for a brush truck, was very fortuitous because it put us in a position now where we need the brush truck. So, as I said, the people stepped up. We have raised, our initial goal was $100,000 to be matched by the county. But due to our efforts and our message resonating with the community and then believing in us because of our past performance and everything, I'm pleased to say we've raised $130,000.
Take a minute right there.
That's pretty So what we need is, we need your help. I was sold this on the basis of matching. And I originally talked with each of you about 100,000 as our goal. I wish we did better. We don't know what it's going to take for sure. We need to extend the building, the existing station, to accommodate the stuff, because you can't leave it outdoors in that environment. So we need to extend the station. And then we need Chief Prather to find us the appropriate vehicle to be able to do it. We need something. I don't know if we can afford brand new, but we don't want it very old. We've got to have something reliable. The other thing I'll mention is that how many drivers do we have now, Tony?
4 or 5. I don't know what we're on certification.
4 or 5. Some of the folks are intimidated with driving those big engines. Josh, you know a little bit about that. That's secret. And particularly on our mountain roads. But a lot of people drive pickup trucks. So I'm cautiously optimistic, that we can bring some of these other folks along as drivers for that lightweight vehicle, first response vehicle, have them appropriately trained and be able to help us get where we need to be. So I would ask you to do that. I'd also say time is of the essence. Many of the donations that we had raised range from $20,000 in some cases down to $100. A lot in the $5,000 to $10,000 range. And so a lot of these people are dependent on the current conditions with financial markets. And right now they're fairly stable. We don't know what they're going to be tomorrow, but I would say to you that time is of the essence. And once I get your approval that we can move forward, then we're going to call in these pledges, and we'll be ready then to fund the process as soon as we can get all put together. So I thank you for your consideration on behalf of all the folks on the mountain.
I've enjoyed kind of watching you guys work. After meeting with you and meeting with Jerry, apparently you guys are really, really, really good at going out and asking for money. I wish I would have had you on my team back when I ran for office a few years ago. But no, I think it's impressive. I think the need is there. I mean, we've all seen the instance where some of the fires do come out. I met with Chief Prather last week, I believe it was, and he's already working with trying to find different prices. And actually, when I showed him your presentation, he had actually looked at this truck as one of the trucks and some of the others that were similar. So he's working on trying to get those together, and we need to start working on getting the estimates for the expansion of the building. That way we know that total. That'll help us know where we have within the process. We hope to, over the next 2 weeks, get that kind of pieced together a lot better, and then work with the finance department on whether it be contingency or transfer or what we need to do to try to get that process through. But I think that the commitment's there from each member of the board to do it. We obviously don't have it as a voting item on the agenda tonight because we don't have all the factors fully in place yet, but if we can get those numbers much tighter and where we know, then when we have our next call meeting or our next regularly scheduled meeting on the 20th, we should be at a point to throw that in as an item. If not, then it's just because we're still waiting on pricing, and we'll do it in November. So
That's fair enough.
I think it's been very impressive to watch you guys go. So thank you very, very much.
Well, it's we're fortunate. We've got we have a lot of folks that had varying degree challenges in life and good opportunities. Made a lot of money. Moved up on that mountain when I think Roy used to say, "Why would anybody want to live up there?" Right? Well, those of us have been in the.
I don't think it's Roy used to say. He probably still says.
He does, but he's happy for our taxes. Yeah, I'll tell a quick story on Roy, which he will appreciate, that when I got my assessment, I called him up and I said, Roy, what's going on here? You've doubled my assessment. And his response was, is that all? So I guess I was supposed to feel better about it. But we are fortunate. We've got great people. They like getting involved. They like giving back to the community. Some give in terms of money, some people in terms of skin, and some people in terms of money and skin. So we're lucky to have them, and the county is lucky to have them as well.
Very much so.
So thank you.
Thank you. So the next item we have on the agenda, as we go through, is a discussion for a request for a tenant to make site improvements at Pickens County Airport. I know that that's kind of a generic overview. I wanted to kind of explain the process slightly so that you would understand just a little bit more on how that works. When we have some of the hangars at the airport are county-owned hangars that were constructed by the county through the bond, and then they're leased directly through. Some others are land leases where then private hangars exist on those land leases. We did have a tenant that has a land lease, has a hangar that was constructed back in 2021 that was there. And in their lease agreement, it states that within 18 months of the lease assignment, their construction and all those improvements would be completed at that point in time. It did not have, and none of our leases that were issued during that time have improvements clauses within the leases, which would define specifics. So because those didn't exist, we sent out and made sure all tenants knew if they're gonna make any changes or improvements to the property, it does require an approval process. And since we're the Board of Commissioners and it now falls directly under us, it comes to us. Doesn't mean that they're major or significant, but we're trying to establish to where the same thing's done in every case that's there. So the tenant essentially is asking to have the ability to pave parking area both to the side and the rear. It's within their space of what they have leased. Not a major impact to the airport. It actually potentially could reduce some of the drive over on the grass and help some of the planes be able to come back through there. But we wanted to make sure that does have a process for discussion so that you guys have a chance that you can ask questions. And so I wanted to bring it to your attention tonight. Obviously, this was originally scheduled when it was just a work session, not when it was changed to a call meeting to vote on the millage rate. So there wasn't a voting item to vote for the approval, and the tenant, we explained to them that this would be something that we would finalize on the 20th at our upcoming meeting. But between now and the 20th, if you need a copy, Lisa will upload the copy of the emails into your folder so that you'll have a chance to review. They did a hand-drawn sketch of what areas they're wanting to pave and the slopes and slants so that it shouldn't affect any of the neighboring tenants that are there, which was one of the main concerns, to make sure that we had a process in place that we didn't start flooding the hangar to the right next to them. So I'll make sure that we've got that and you've got the next 2 weeks to be able to discuss and ask those questions. But I wanted to put it in front of you, that rather than just throwing it as a voting item and everybody look and say that, but it is the first one that would come before us where one of our tenants has asked us for a chance to improve that. One of the reasons when I did the amendment to the agenda was to go from C to C1, and that was so that they would fit together and not mix them, move them, separate them apart, was to give Bill a chance to kind of walk through some of what we've been going through in this transition with kind of what we've assumed, which includes leases, which includes some of the processes like what we're talking about right here. So Bill's going to give just kind of a quick overview on that, and so that way when we get to our next meeting, when we start having to take action on a couple of these items, it will be clear. You'll understand it, and there won't be a whole lot of confusion. So with that, I'm going to flip the floor over to Bill and let him.
So I've got minus 1 minute to do this.
I think drop it 2. That would be good.
I'm gonna stand over here because we'll go faster. And it's gonna be very fast. Number one, because we're gonna come back to this in future sessions in much more detail. And number two, because of what Chris just described, is to get this framework in the record so it's established and we can build on it in the future. So we're gonna have some acronyms here. BOC, Pickens County Board of Commissioners, counties, Pickens County government operating under the BOC. PCAA is the Pickens County Airport Authority, which has now been dissolved. JZP is the call name for the Pickens County Airport. FAA is the Federal Aviation Administration. GDOT is the Georgia Department of Transportation, and Jasper is the city of Jasper. So BCAA for a very long time has had control of the operations of the Pickens County Airport. On May 12, 2025, the Georgia General Assembly passed legislation that was signed by Governor Kent that transferred operational control and the assumption by law of everything out there to the BOC, and now everything is operated under the stewardship of the BOC. So we talk about that, what transferred by the operational law were airport operations. Let's look at that right now from a revenue standpoint. There are about 10 or 11 line items for revenue. By far the biggest are fuel sales, hangar rentals, and land leases. That transferred over. All of the contracts, including leases, transferred over. All the compliance obligations, for example, obligations to the FAA and GDOT, that all transferred over. And then legal or administrative actions also transferred over. We have one active administrative action right now we're having to deal with that was inherited from the years under the airport authority. That all transferred over. And just to go back to this, you all have your objectives that you want to accomplish in taking this over. These are the critical items that are going to have to be managed very, very carefully and in much detail for you all to accomplish your objectives. That's what we're focusing on. So it's up and down the line on these 4 arrows. Compliance is necessary. The sources of the things that we've got to comply with: U.S. law, Georgia law, local ordinances. That's the county and Jasper's. The reason why Jasper is because now the airport is located within the incorporated limits of the city of Jasper. Well, then why is the county up there? Because there's an intergovernmental agreement between the county and Jasper whereby there's cross enforcement with regard to building and building regulations. They basically, if they have anything that's located in unincorporated, their building rules apply. If the county has anything in the city of Jasper, like this building here, then the county's rules apply. FAA regulations, GDOT regulations, the minimum standards of the airport, the rules and regulations of the airport. Right now, those are in the same document, but we're basically going to be working through all these things and redoing them, and contracts, including leases. And then prior, there's the old bylaws of the airport authority that we have to consider in certain situations as we deal with things. So who are the compliant parties? Who has to comply? Us, the county, the tenants out there, pilots that fly in, visitors that come to the airport, and with regard to certain things happened in the past, the airport authority had to comply. So if we look at this and we look at the direct things that the county under your stewardship is going to deal with from the compliance, it's those yellow coded things. Local ordinances, the counties, the standards and rules and regulations, and the contracts, including the leases. In the county, this is going to be the Planning and Development Department and the Fire Marshal's Office are going to be the 2 departments/agencies that are going to be dealing with the things that are out there. And then by referral, U.S. law, Georgia law, local ordinances, Jasper, FAA regulations, and GDOT regulations. What this means is, and this is our practice with regard to things that we've dealt with outside of the airport, and that is, if we have a potential violation that comes to us by way of a complaint, we will make a referral to the appropriate authorities. And then we'll basically be looking at things in consideration of the prior PCAA bylaws. So that's basically the color-coded whole thing. But when you look at those items up above contracts, including leases, there are clauses in the leases that require compliance with any kind of law or regulations that are in place. So if there are things up there above that, rules and regulations above, that are not being complied with, there's a potential breach of the lease, which brings on all kinds of issues. Short-term compliance enforcement focus, complaints and leased premises. We're going to respond to all complaints And proactively, we're gonna deal with leased premises. We're gonna look at the lease establishment as it was originally established, the lease terms and the uses of the premises, to make sure that everything is in compliance with all of those compliance areas that we looked at. In terms of what's out there, Chris touched on this. They're standard twin-sized hangars. There's 61 of those and 14 storage units that are included in that category. There's a second category of box hangars. There are 3 hangars and no storage units. And then there are the most recent things and the most significant size-wise things, which are the land lease agreements, where the land is leased from now the county, and tenants build their hangars or structures there, and all of that reverts to the county after 30 years. That's the way they're currently written. There's 17 of those in total. There are 10 old contractual lease agreements. There's one atypical situation, which we'll talk about down the road. And then there are 6 new leases. We're going to look at those 17 to start with outside of the compliance. And basically going to be doing lease reviews of these. Use description forms have been sent out to all tenants so that we can get a handle on the kind of uses that are there. Non-aeronautical related uses are not supposed to be conducted out there. And we've received a couple of complaints along those lines. And use change requests, this is what Chris just described. Now, again, we get back to the objectives that you all have when you took this thing over. There's a lot we're looking at, there's a lot we have looked at. There's a huge volume of information. That said, on this end, in terms of the huge volume of information, there's some information that's just not there. And then we have some conflicting information. And then we have some information that's not dated that's redundant. So we're dealing with all kinds of things. But the biggest point is, it's going to be a much different situation under your stewardship than it has been prior to May the 10th, 2025.
Thanks, sir. Y'all have any questions for Bill? So I know that when we had our last meeting, I had to be at a conference in South Georgia, and so I didn't get a chance to make the announcement. And she'll turn red and get mad at me whenever I do say this now. But following an interview process, we had several candidates that came through, and Miss Stacy McClure was actually named the new airport manager. She's been working on the finance side of things for the airport for the 4 years leading up to the opening coming up. She initially kicking and screaming and put her name in the hat, but then I think as she's done it a little bit more, she won't admit it in public, but I think she started to get excited about being a part of seeing things happen and seeing things transition. And she loves the public spotlight, so this is the moment that she's been waiting for a long time. But I want to say congratulations to her. We have a committee of there were 4 involved in the interview process, and I'm not exaggerating. We had candidates from all over the place that we sat and talked to, and her knowledge of the local community, the local Pickens County government, the grants process, the specific airport processes that she'd been involved in, the relationships with FAA, GDOT, it just was a unanimous decision from the team after the interviews were completed. So we all independently put our names down and felt really good about the future of the airport with her being able to grab it, and her love for Pickens County. I know that may sound funny to somebody from outside, but for many of us that have lived here our lives, that's a very important piece. So we wanted to make sure that was a factor. So we're glad to have you. As much as I pick on you, I'm still really glad to have you. So,
now you really got to build that terminal faster.
Yeah. Get on the phone. The next item, and this is the final item we had on the work session agenda, is just a discussion of the proposed SPLOST projects. This is not an endorsement, not a pushing in any direction, but I know that the early voting does open in about a week for the November 4th election, that the SPLOST will be considered on by the voters in Pickens County. It's been covered in a couple of meetings, been covered in the newspaper. We had an open house at the rec department, had a chance to sit and meet through people. I think Ashley's done a good job providing details on social media. Just simply wanted to go through in the proposal what some of those items are. One of the things that's not included on the slide that you can see is that one of the parts of the question that will be on the ballot is, one, the approval of the SPLOST, which is a renewal of the existing SPLOST that expires at the end of June and continues that same 1 penny, not adds an additional, but continues as that 1 penny expires, that 1 penny would remain if this does approve. The other part that lengthens the question, so when you look on the ballot, the question's going to be really long, and it's because it has to meet all legal requirements. One is the resolution, or if I can say the right words, the referendum that would then allow the collection of that SPLOST tax. The second part of it is a bond, and the reason for that bond is some of these projects are things that need to move forward within the first part of the collection phase. If we were to collect the tax for 5 years and then start the process, the cost for those projects will be completely different than what they are right now. So it's really difficult to predict. So a bond was factored in, and that is part of the question. It's the questions, the approval of the referendum to collect, but then it's also the bond being able to be implemented as well. There's multiple pieces in here. The level 1 project simply means it houses a constitutionally elected official. Doesn't mean it's top priority over all the other priorities. It just, because of the housing of a constitutionally elected official within the county, being in it qualifies that building as a level 1 project. Directly in front of our building that you're currently in now would be where this would be constructed and be complete with a drive-through. So that if you're coming to renew your tag or pay your taxes, you'd be able to drive through. Several citizens have made quite a few efforts to try to get in, and I know that the tax commissioner's office frequently goes out to the parking lot to assist those that are not able to come into the building. It also frees up the space within the building for us to be able to better serve the public inside the building here. That would be directly in front, like I said, of our building where we currently sit. Another project's the public safety operations training facilities, equipment, furnishings, and infrastructure. I believe that the Pickens Progress did a great job covering a story where the school is now listed for sale. The old Pickens County High School, which was later the old Jasper Middle School, which was the Upper Elementary School, which is Mountain Ed now. It's had many, many names. That facility currently houses a lot of the sheriff's office operations. It includes their training, their uniform patrol, their criminal investigations division, their vehicle maintenance, and they have a fitness facility that they use as well as part of the lease. It also houses a soccer complex that we're able to use, which was the old football field. So the soccer practice, soccer games that do occur use that facility as well. So the school currently has it on the market for sale. And a lot of people have asked, why didn't the county just buy it? Well, the cost was pretty prohibitive when you look at the total amount, and that was with them offering us the first look at it before putting that out there. And the facility is significant in its age and would not really work and be conducive for a long-term expansion. That public safety center would not only house those sheriff's office facilities that I described, but also the administration side on the fire and public safety. With the director of public safety and emergency management director. They would have office space there, a shared training, multiple training rooms that would be able to be shared with fire, sheriff's office, and with emergency management, so that there would be the ability to host small classes and large classes within there. And then in addition, moving the 911 facility into the basement and putting a new emergency operations center into the basement. Our current emergency operations center sits on the main floor level, and that's where everybody and every decision maker goes to in the midst of a tornado warning, is to our upstairs facility to manage and take care of an incident. So this gives us the chance to really put together a facility that will meet all public safety needs. It also includes the ability to put in a live fire training with a live burn tower with it as well. The county currently owns 5 acres just to our west, right behind some of the buildings here. That is where we are tentatively allotting for this to be constructed and working with those. The next is an item that's kind of a continuation of the item. The next is for law enforcement facilities, vehicles, equipment, and improvements. That's to be able to keep the fleet for the sheriff's office, along with all their technology, electronics, and then any improvements to the jail and any facilities that the sheriff's office has. Parks and rec facilities, vehicle, equipment, and improvements. There's a significant overhaul for the Parks and Rec over at Roper Park that includes rehab of all the existing fields, construction of 2 new ball fields with turf infields, rehab, actually almost completely building 3 soccer fields to get those to where they're truly functioning in the soccer space. In addition to a pickleball complex that would have 8 pickleball courts, a indoor swimming pool working in partnership with the school. We will be able to build an indoor year-round swimming pool that would replace the swimming pool that opened when I think I was in the 1st grade. It might have been kindergarten, actually. I don't recall exactly what year, but I think we're pushing on up there. So that would give us the ability, and then also an outdoor that's a water slide, splash pad, with a small lazy river that would accommodate that particular part. Improved parking throughout, a maintenance facility for the equipment to be housed in, some better signage so that whenever there's events going on, there would be an electronic display sign that would be there as well. That's on the Parks and Rec side of things for the plan. Water and sewer facilities vehicle, there's a $3 million allotment going into water to work with the water department in improving the facilities that are there. There's also a fire vehicle or public safety vehicles equipment. I skipped that one. I went through here the first time. I apologize. Public safety vehicles equipment improvements. That's primarily for fire trucks. I know that this past one we've spent a bunch on trying to get ambulance replacements. 2 of them are on the road now. 2 will be here later this year, and another the following the early part of next year. There's about a 2-year wait when you get those ordered. So we've spent a lot of time trying to get those fire trucks or those ambulances, and we're moving into a systematic replacement of some very old fire equipment throughout the county so that we can start getting that improved as we go, in addition to all the other equipment that's needed there. General government facilities, vehicles, and equipment improvements, that's I believe a $500,000. That's just for any major upgrades in terms of like a heat and air conditioning system, other needs that are there over that 5-year period. We would have the fund to be able to make those improvements. And transportation facilities, vehicles, and equipment improvements. There we go. Just to kind of show you the price tag on those over the 5-year window, the estimated collection for that SPLOST over that 1 penny sales tax based on the estimate using the data over the last 10 years would show the generation and then the breakdown and allotment of those. That's $3 million going to the tax commissioner, not just the construction of the new facility, but also the complete rehab of the facilities that they're currently in. $15 million going into all public safety operations, training facilities and equipment. Everything that's not utilized on the facility in the fire training center would then be able to use for the animal control. New animal shelter, because that is considered one of our public safety departments, and for improvements to our radio system, our radio communications tower as well. $7.2 million going to the public safety facilities vehicles. Once again, I mentioned that with the fire trucks. I know Chief Prather and I met earlier this week. He wishes that number was about double because we have that much of a need for fire trucks, and we're hoping that the new Chick-fil-A and some of the other businesses that are coming, we're going to see this number come in higher over a 5-year period. But we're trying to put the realistic expectation into going through that as well. The law enforcement facilities, vehicles, and equipment, $6 million. Parks and Rec facilities, that's $13.6 million out of this 5-year SPLOST. We do have 2 that were carried over from the current SPLOST to be able to add to this. And the school has made a commitment to help for the upgrade fee from the cost of an outdoor pool to an indoor pool. So we'll have that commitment from the school once the process is complete. Water, like I mentioned before, is $3 million. I was incorrect when I gave the amount on the general government facilities, vehicles, and equipment. That's $600,000. I'd said $500,000 the first time. I apologize. And then for the roads, transportation facilities, vehicles, equipment, and improvements on our road systems, a $6 million allotment into the improvement of roads. The municipal projects for all cities, their apportionment based on state law. With the 5-year, it's based on use and population percentages. Their combined municipal totals would be $8,532,000 that would be collected for the cities to use. And I know that's a very fast overview. I do believe this is information that we've been pushing on a pretty regular basis, whether it be through social media. I've got to commend the progress for their efforts in putting that information out as well and continuing to try to keep that out in front of the public. But we wanted to make sure, since this was our last meeting before that voting period opens, to present just kind of the information of what our intent is if approved, to be able to go through there and get that information out in front of you. So I know that's the rapid fire version of SPLOST. We've been trying to put some more details. I think there's a couple more posts that are going to be scheduled here in the next week or so. So if you follow our county page on social media, you'll get to see some more detailed versions that go in there. And I think the progress typically picks up some of the headlines from those and calls for some follow-up questions. So we'll hope to see if there's a chance to provide that as much as we can. So just to make sure you have the opportunity to make an informed decision when you go vote. Like I said, that election date is November the 4th. There's I think one statewide issue that's on the ballot, and that's dealing with insurance commission post.
Public service.
Yeah, public service, sorry. And then there's the municipalities. The city of Jasper has a municipal race that's on there as well. The school also has an item on there dealing with senior tax exemption. It will be a ballot item that will be on the question as well. So this will be the one that we had approved a resolution for, called for the election several months back. With that, I'll open up public comments. No public comments. Then I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. You can't go through a meeting like this without ending it with your rollback being the highlighted screen of the night. It'll take me just a minute to get it there.